Hi, and thank you for watching this recorded presentation on the draft housing goals and policies for the Envision Eugene Comprehensive Plan. My name is Stuart Warren. I am an associate planner on the Community Planning and Design team. I'm thrilled to be back presenting on another round of draft goals and policies for the Comprehensive Plan. The Comprehensive Plan is one component of the Urban Growth Strategies project. This project is identifying the tools, actions, policies, and land needed for the next 20 years for living wage jobs and housing that everyone can afford. This is one of a series of presentations on the Comprehensive Plan. In this presentation, I will provide a brief overview of what a Comprehensive Plan is, an overview of the draft goals and policies for Chapter 4 Housing. Lastly, I will outline next steps and ways that you can provide feedback. Let's talk briefly about what a Comprehensive Plan is. If you'd like to learn more, I encourage you to watch the recorded presentation on the Comprehensive Plan. The link is included here and at the end of the presentation. The Comprehensive Plan guides the city in its land use planning for future growth within the urban growth boundary. It is informed by years of community engagement through Envision Eugene. Each chapter has a series of goals that articulate the overarching aspirations of the community. Each chapter also contains policies. These policies will provide a consistent course of action and move the community towards attainment of its goals. Once adopted, the policies guide the work of the city staff in formulating proposed changes to development regulations, long-range planning projects, and financial decisions. Before we dive into the draft goals and policies for Chapter 4, Housing, I want to provide a quick disclaimer. These goals and policies are in draft form and are likely to change because of the input we receive over the next year or so. Because of the number of policies, I'm only going to highlight a few of them. To see all the draft goals and policies and complete our survey, please visit the Project Engage Eugene page. The link is on the bottom of this slide and at the end of the presentation. This draft housing chapter currently has 4 goals and 29 policies. The chapter guides the city's future efforts for increasing housing production, affordability, choice, and fairness. The draft goals and policies plan for housing affordable to all income levels, with a particular focus on lower and middle income households based on the current and future housing needs of the community. This chapter plans for housing needs for people at all income levels. Planning for different levels of housing affordability is typically based on household income. This graphic illustrates new state requirements for determining housing need and is intended to help increase housing production, affordability, and choice for all Oregonians. The circles show a household's income as compared to the area's median income. The rectangles show the associated housing characteristics that are typically affordable based on household incomes. The comprehensive plan includes policies that support housing at these different levels of affordability, including subsidized affordable housing for those households with the lowest incomes, moderate income household housing that may include some subsidy or is otherwise built with affordability in mind, and market rate housing that the market can provide without subsidy and is more typical in new development. The first draft goal is on housing production. The draft goal language is develop and facilitate tools that increase the production of new housing, creating a supply of housing that meets the needs of current and future residents. Under this draft goal, there are currently 11 draft policies that help attain the goal of housing production. A few examples of draft policies include housing production. This policy provides the city direction to regularly review and update land use regulations and processes as needed to reduce barriers to the development of housing. The policy titled Housing Access directs the city to incentivize an increase in the supply of all housing types, particularly housing that is affordable to households earning equal to or less than 120% of the area median income. And the last policy I want to highlight under this goal is titled New and Updated Tools, which directs the city to consider new, expanded, or refined incentives, fees, and exemptions that encourage the production of housing. There are a lot more policies under this goal, and I encourage you to explore them on the project's webpage. The second draft goal in the housing chapter is titled Housing Affordability. The goal language reads, a housing supply that is affordable to all community members, with particular focus on households earning less than or equal to 120% of the area median income. To help realize this goal, staff have drafted 6 policies. The draft policies include topics on coordinating and partnering with public, private, and nonprofit sectors to facilitate the production and provision of housing that is affordable to all households. Identify policy, regulatory, and financial barriers to housing affordability and consider removing or minimizing them to increase housing choice. And identifying opportunities to increase public subsidies and incentives for producing affordable housing for lower income households. There's a lot more policies in this section, and I encourage you to check them out on the website. The next draft goal of the chapter is titled Housing Choice and Diversity. A housing supply that accommodates the diverse needs and preferences of community members, including but not limited to housing types, locations, and characteristics such as cost, size, accessibility, and ownership. This goal has 7 draft policies. A few draft policies that I want to highlight are support the development of a housing supply that meets the diverse needs of Eugene's current and future residents, such as diverse housing types, characteristics, and locations. Developing new land use regulations and updating existing regulations to allow a diverse mixture of housing types, characteristics, and locations in order to support a broad range of housing needs. And the last policy that I want to highlight is on middle housing. This policy encourages the development of duplexes, triplexes, fourplexes, townhouses, and cottage clusters by exploring incentives such as fee reductions, tax exemptions, pre-approved building plans, and tools that support middle housing. This section contains 3 other policies on housing for seniors and people with disabilities, manufactured housing, existing housing stock, and home ownership. You can check those out on our website. The final draft goal of the chapter is titled Fairness and Equity. Provide fair, equitable, and affordable access to housing for community members, and in particular, for people from underserved community groups. This goal has 6 draft policies. A few draft policy topics that I want to highlight under this goal are one on fair housing, which is focused on coordinating plans and investments with internal and external partners to support inclusive communities, overcome disparities in access to community assets, mitigate exposures to harm, protect from housing discrimination, and enhance housing choice for people from underserved community groups. Work with public and nonprofit partners on strategies and programs that remove regulatory barriers to the siting of shelters for individuals and families experiencing homelessness. The goal of this policy is to provide interim stability and support for folks as they move into more permanent housing options. Seek to create housing opportunities for people with all income levels throughout the community to both improve equitable access to community assets and to avoid or reduce segregation by race and/or income. Once again, there are a lot more policies in this section, and I encourage you to take a look and let us know what you think. Our next steps for Chapter 4 include collecting community input on these draft goals and policies. This video, its survey, and other materials are currently posted on the project's Engage Eugene page at the web address shown here, and I encourage you to let us know what you think. This year, staff will be working with an equity advisory panel, a housing and developer working group, and other groups like the Sustainability Commission and Active Transportation Committee to ensure their needs and priorities are reflected in these draft goals and policies. Then, later this year, staff will be refining the draft goals and policies as needed with the Eugene and Lane County Planning Commissions, City Council, and Board of Commissioners. Again, I want to encourage you to watch all of our chapter videos and tell us what you think. All materials can be accessed by visiting the project's Engage Eugene page shown here, or you can scan the QR code or follow the link on the slide. We will be posting videos like this one with surveys for each draft chapter. Surveys will be available through the end of July in 2025. If you are interested in learning more about the Comprehensive Plan, please visit the Comprehensive Plan webpage also shown here. And lastly, feel free to reach out to project staff with any questions, thoughts, and feedback by sending us an email. With that, I want to say thank you for watching this presentation and taking the time to learn more about the draft housing chapter of the Envision Eugene Comprehensive Plan.